What's going on, guys? This is Miasin and welcome to the OCG metagame breakdown number 2. It's a relatively small one, 101 top performing decks for only like 3 days, 20 tournaments, but still really worth exploring, especially when we're seeing Faraking being like over 33%. Like this is getting close to tier 0, maybe not. Still, like we've seen like way more actually in the past. But for a tier 1 deck, it's like tier 1 by a long shot, which I am still like really confused as to how that's possible, but whatever. We're going to be analyzing everything today. But before we go any further, I would really appreciate you if you could smash the like and subscribe button. Really motivates me a lot to keep making videos like these. And now let's get right into it. Alright, so first things first, Faraking is taking 36 out of 101 slots, which is a little disgusting. Again, by the way, these are the top performing decks, so not like everything that people are playing, only the decks that are doing well. And then second place is Silent Enforcer, but first place is like almost 5 times better, which is a little ridiculous. So yeah, the Ritual deck is extremely good because it's really consistent, really resilient as well, and it's decent going second against, it depends against what, but it's not on the same level as Faraking, that is for sure. But it doesn't lose to Maxi though, and it doesn't lose to Summon Limits, so, you know, a lot of nice arguments for this this deck. Anyways, Rescue Ace is finally back. It used to be like non-existent before. Like, look at this, Rescue Ace was like somewhere here. Sinful, yeah, oh no, actually never, still. 6 out of 148. Now it's 6 out of 101. So obviously there is somewhat of an improvement. But before that, I do remember the deck was literally doing absolutely nothing whatsoever. So yeah, now it is the third best deck, tied with Salamangreat. And this is also another really interesting deck, because people are figuring out like a new really cool tech card that I'll even be making a full in-depth video on, because I actually think it's extremely interesting. But yeah, no, Salamangreat, really cool deck. Anyways, Lawn Mowing branded. Okay, yeah. I mean, yeah, sure. This deck has been doing well for a hot minute. And Snake Eye, so tied with each other in the 4th place. Again, makes sense. Snake Eye has always been doing pretty well. For the most part, it was always like the 2nd or 3rd best deck. But now, I guess, 4th. It doesn't really change too much. But yeah, no, very consistent deck as well. And people keep changing their list because sometimes they're not playing with Jet Synchron. And sometimes they are. In the TCG, everybody's playing with Jet Synchron. I really wonder why, but whatever. And then Despia just has like such a good matchup against Faraking, and Shuttle Fusion is disgusting. Yeah, anyways, Infernoid's another extremely powerful deck. Let's see. Grass, Horus, Sinful Spill, Snake Eye, Infernoid. Okay, yeah, I mean, they do have Lawn Mowing, and they are playing the Horus engine, so that's the only difference with me, because I was doing that in a 40 card deck. Well, actually, no, 44, 45. Yeah, there is no way I want to play a 40 card Infernoid deck. I don't think that's optimal, but whatever. This deck is going to be insane in the TCG because Maxi is not a thing, and the ceiling level of this deck is off the charts. Like, it breaks all kinds of boards going second. It's absolutely disgusting. Anyways, Flunderies, obviously it's a shifter deck, so it's bound to be good. Kashtira is not a thing in the OCG, but in the TCG, Kashtira is infinitely better than Flunderies. Labyrinth, yeah, this deck only has, like, bad matchups. It's really sad to say. The only good matchup for Labyrinth here would be Rescue Ace. Yeah, I mean, Salamangreat is definitely a good matchup. Despia is like a horrible matchup, I think. Snake Eye is a bad matchup. Infernoid is... Infernoid is winnable for Labyrinth, honestly. And Flunderies, I think that's also a bad matchup for Labyrinth. So yeah. Anyways, Adamancipator, that doesn't exist here. Whatever this is. Magistus, what? Anyways, Runic Stun. Pendulum. Vanquished Soul, okay, wow. Dragon Link Exorcister. What the hell is this? Horus for Iron, Ice Barrier, Math Mech, Manadome, Purely, Ritual Beast. This doesn't exist. What the hell is this again? And then, yeah, nobody cares. Alright, so Faraking, basically what's being explained here, thanks to, of course, it's your boy Akira, is that people are replacing Anti-Spell with Solemn Strike in the side deck, as you can clearly see here. And the reason for that is because in a grind game, when the game state is super simplified, you're realizing that Anti-Spell just doesn't really do too much, at least for you, because obviously you are also top decking, and the reason why you're top decking, even when you're going first, is because your opponent is hand shopping you to death. And when that is the case, cards like Anti-Spell maybe aren't that great, but Solemn Strike is like a turn-ending card, basically guaranteed, at least in the mirror match, because if you can Solemn Strike the Snake Eye Ash, you're accomplishing 2 things. You're negating the search for the Populace, but you're also making it so that the Ash cannot use its other effect in order to transform itself into like an Oak or a Flamberge. And that is absolutely massive. So Solemn Strike is an extremely powerful card that might replace Anti-Spell, it depends. Solemn Judgment is another really good one. The only difference is that Solemn Strike can negate, like, it can negate, like, activated effects as well, whereas Solemn Judgment only really negates inherent summons. And you don't necessarily need to negate like spells and traps because you're not playing a trap deck. You're not really afraid to Lightning Storm, Duster, or evenly. These cards are not even being played, right? Really. I mean, here, Duster and Heavy Storm aren't even for the mirror match. They're for other decks. Cosmic Cyclone is actually much better for the mirror match because Cosmic on the field spell is massive, whereas Duster, not that great because the Sanctuary will simply protect the island. So yeah, it could be better. But yeah, no, Solemn Strike is definitely a very interesting card. And again, we might see the same thing in the TCG, which is the reason why I'm covering this, because I used to side deck 3 Solemn Strike myself in MathMech, and it was infinitely better than any other trap card I could be playing. But yeah, for the main deck, I mean, it's relatively streamlined. There's really nothing interesting to go over here. No longer playing Nibiru, which is very interesting. And I am actually shocked because it's so easy to play around Nibiru if that's your goal. All you have to do is just send the Barong with the Garunix, but nobody's really doing that. So everybody's playing into Nibiru, but at the same time, since everybody's playing into Nibiru, you would imagine that Nibiru would be good to main deck, but nope, it's not. And the reason for that is because it is horrendously bad against Voiceless Voice, which is the second best deck. And even the other decks like Rescue Ace, I mean, sometimes it's good against them, sometimes it's not. It depends on their playstyle. Okay, Nibiru is Exodia against Salamangreat, let's be real. It's extremely good. Nibiru sucks against Despia. It's alright against Pure Snake Eye. It really depends, honestly. Against Inferno, it's actually pretty good, honestly. And against these decks, it obviously does nothing. But yeah, no, it really depends if you want to play Nibiru or not. Again, this applies for both the OCG and the TCG because even though Max C is like the big difference that we have, the other hand traps are still, for the most part, identical. So, yeah, keep that in mind. And also, we also have only one Gamma and one Driver. But another trend that is emerging for both of us in the OCG and TCG is that people are playing still the Gamma as a one-of, but this time with 1 or 2 Deltas in order to be able to negate spell cards. Anyway, speaking of the extremely powerful Ritual deck, which is Voiceless Voice or Silent Forcer. So this guy, actually, Jekyll OP, he played against 5 Fire King decks in this tournament, and he won every single one of his matchups. So when he was going first, he was siding out the 3 Maxi and siding in the 3 Summon Limit. Obviously makes a lot of sense. Summon Limit is so filthy here because your opponent doesn't really want to side in Cosmic, Duster, Lightning Storm because they can just get negated by either Skull Guardian or Odd Eyes Pendulum Graph because it's so easy to protect them. But like at the same time, you have to side in board break, spell and trap removal. Otherwise, you lose to like non-engine cards. But like these cards do nothing against the engine cards. So if you draw them and your opponent doesn't have the summon limit, then you're kind of looking like a moron. Unfortunately, it's not really ideal. Obviously, you would have to probably side out the Super Poly though. So I don't know why this is here. But anyways, when going second, he would be siding out 3 Ash and 2 Call by the Grave going second. Well, that makes sense. But siding out 3 Ash against Fire King is extremely interesting going second. You would imagine that you want to maximize the amount of hand traps you have against that deck. But no, apparently Ash is not too great against Fire King. Now I can already imagine everyone in the comments saying, but of course Ash is bad against Fire King because it's a fire monster and it can be revived off of Hita. It's obviously a garbage card. Well, I mean, it's deeper than that actually, because if you are timing your Ash correctly, it doesn't matter if it gets revived back by Hita, your opponent still doesn't do much of anything. But yeah, it really depends again on the timing. You can deny your opponent's Fire King engine completely, but I do agree that it is drastically worse than like Droll or even Nibiru actually against Fire King. But again, though, Fire King is so good at playing around Nibiru if they really want to. Fantastical, Dragon, Phantasme, and Droll and Logbird, as well as Cosmic Cyclone for going second. That also makes sense. If he had played Super Poly in Game 1, he would side them out in Game 2, and instead of that, he would side in Evenly and Triple Tactic Thrust, which makes a lot of sense because Super Poly is really, it really shines with a surprise factor when your opponent doesn't know that you have it, so that your opponent just plays like completely messy, and then you can catch him off guard. But I mean, you know, so Super Poly is not a particularly good board breaker against Fire King. It's an absolute joke to play around, and the pressure that the Fire King deck establishes is not on the field, it's in the hand and in the graveyard. Super Poly, as a board breaker, doesn't remove the amount of interruptions your opponent has, and that's what you really have to remember. Like, a lot of people just, in their mind, they all believe that every single deck is the same. Super Poly has to be a broken card because every deck summons a bunch of monsters, a bunch of negates. That's not always the case. Again, Fire King, you're really gonna have to watch out about their grave and their hand, and Super Poly is not gonna carry you at all. So that's the reason why I really despise this card. It, again, will not decrease the amount of interruptions your opponent has. And it's just a bad way to clear your opponent's monsters. Cosmic Cyclone on the field spell is already a better option. That's like an actual real board breaker, ironically. But yeah, no, and everything else here, I guess, makes sense for the most part. A lot of hand traps, 2 Nibiru, 3 Ash, 3 Maxi, 1 Droll, double Imperm. Very interesting. I guess Nibiru is a monster that can also be used as the ritual material for your Skull Guardian or even Odd Eyes Pendulum Graph or Seravis. Because it is a light monster with, like, obviously level 11. Even if you get nibbed, which will not happen, by the way, you can still use your Nibiru token as a material for a ritual summon, which is actually extremely hilarious. Again, being a light monster is the most convenient thing ever. Even if it wasn't light, you could still use it as a material for Saphira, because Saphira doesn't care, but the ritual spell does care. Unfortunately, and that is the reason why pre-preparation of rites is only a 2 of, because yeah, sure, it's a +1, but it's a +1 for a bad way to ritual summon. It's not always ideal. So in the TCG, if you plan on playing 3 Fenrir in your deck, you might want to reconsider the amount of copies of pre-preparation you want to play. So keep that into consideration. And also, don't play Fenrir and Nibiru at the same time. Please don't be stupid. I've seen people have Fenrir and Nibiru in their hands so many times, and then resolving Nibiru, and then their Fenrir does nothing, and then they complain and cry. Anyways, the side deck to Phantasme, I don't really like that with a bunch of hand traps, but I guess it still makes sense when you're drawing into like board breakers or not even Jewel. Yeah, by the time you summon your Phantasme, your opponent already does all the searching that he needs. Unless he's like really stupid and goes into a Link Kuriboh first action, but yeah, it's not gonna happen. Yeah, in the combo, by the way, I understand the combo. That's the reason why I say that. Just before you guys go like, Yak Sign, you have no idea what you're saying. The deck always needs to link some. Shut up. Okay, no. Rescue Ace. Everybody's playing Reinforce now. It makes it so that the Turbulence is unaffected by monster effect and indestructible by battle, which is extremely annoying because it ensures that you always keep something for the next turn, and then you can also banish the Reinforce to set back your emergency, and in the OCG, it's a 1-of. So it makes a lot of sense that you want to recur it back, and then you just win for next turn. But it's very bad going second, so I would not recommend playing this card. If you want to, you can side 1 when you know for a fact that you're going first, but that's about all I can really accept. I mean, apart from that, I really don't think it's good. Obviously, going second, all these trap cards are dog shit. For the side deck, though, we have 1 Impulse and 3 Phantasme. Really not satisfied with your opening hands, huh? Really trying to resolve the Fire, I think, Fire Engine as often as possible in Phantasme, but I mean only... No, actually, there's already 2 Impulse in the main deck. Holy shit. Yeah, okay, yeah, so... Wow, a lot of Phantasme-S cards, actually. 4? No, hold on a second. 6. I can't count. Yeah, 3 Impulse and 3 Phantasme. There we go. Yeah, this is like a really TCG-looking like side deck, you know? 3 Nibiru, 3 Phantasme, 3 Jewel Soul Release, and then only 3 1-ofs. In the OCG, it's usually like all over the place. Like, there we go, exactly. This is like a typical OCG side deck, actually. 1 Droll, and then 1 Gamma, 1 Driver, 1 Delta. Oh my god. Yeah, and then 1 Red Reboot. I mean, that's logical. Also, these cards. But yeah, no, in the TCG, you get bullied for doing that. Anyways, the final deck is Salamangreat, and this one is extremely interesting because there's a really cool card that you can play against the Fire King deck in order to break their board, but not really because you're just drawing billions of cards, and that would be by utilizing Burning Draw, which is this card in the side deck. It's only good going second. Going first, it does nothing. It is a normal spell card. Basically, it allows you to target a Link monster upon controls, and then you draw cards equal to the Link rating of it. So you can target Appaloosa or Amblo-Whale to draw 4 cards. So in a perfect world, you are drawing into board breakers in order to break the board even more. Yeah, I mean, drawing into hand traps would be really shit. But if you already had board breakers, then you can draw into your engine, and then you can actually play the game. The one drawback is that, of course, Burning Draw is a normal spell card, so it does play very hard into anti-spell. And even if you draw, like, I mean, because of the way this side deck is built, you're also drawing into, you know, Change of Heart and Duster, potentially, which are not really good into anti-spell. I mean, again, yeah, this is irrelevant. I mean, let's just pretend like you didn't draw them into, Burning Draw, that's the name of the card, yeah. But rather drew them, like, for turn, and then your opponent still flips the anti-spell. These cards are still completely useless. It's not like quick play spells. So yeah, Cosmic Cyclone, that's the reason why this card is an S-tier side deck card. It's in every one side deck, quite literally no exception. Cosmic Cyclone is the MVP of the side deck for Phantom Nightmare format. Again, being able to hit Far King Island so well, it bypasses the protection of Sanctuary, and then you obviously have some other cards that you can hit. Floodgates, Anti-Spell, etc. I really recommend. But Burning Draw is definitely a good incentive for people to play Salamangreat because drawing 4 cards is always really nice. It does lock you under only being able to normal or special summon fire monsters, so that is my issue. Otherwise, the card would obviously be cracked. Yeah, and I think it's always treated as a Salamangreat card, but I don't know how easy that is to search unless you're going into Raging Phoenix, which is a little unrealistic going second. Like, yeah, let me draw into my board breakers after you allow my full combo to go through. Yeah, that's wishful thinking. Anyways, a lot of very interesting cards are being played here. The Salamangreat Meek, I think that card's kind of dog shit, but it is what it is. The Code of Soul, very cool card. You can link into your opponent's turn. So you can relink a Pyro Phoenix and destroy every card your opponent controls. It's a very cute combo. But I feel like there's a lot missing in this extra deck. And I'm not 100% sure if I like the way this is built. This is way too Salamangreat-y. And it really lacks the versatility that you should have in a Salamangreat extra deck. I don't see SP Little Knight. I don't see a way to OTK. I don't see Sprint with EMP Grim Youd in the main deck. So yeah, if you're going first, you really need a combination of Hand Shops and Salamangreat Engine in order to make an unbreakable board. Otherwise, you can still lose going first. And that's an issue with Salamangreat. It feels way too fair when you go first. Not to mention that you can still lose to Nibiru very hard. The only sequence to play around Nibiru involves Foxy, so that you can like pretend to go into end phase and then your opponent nibs you at the end of the main phase after you like set up a trap card. And then you go Foxy Effect from Grave, discard Spinny, and then you make Mirage Stallion and you play from there. It's a little unrealistic. Yeah, I mean, it's a cool deck. Very nice going second as well because of all of these Hand Shops, but it obviously has major flaws. Like the normal summon, if it gets stopped, you lose. And yeah, it's always the same thing, actually. Every single format. Ever since this deck was a thing, it was always losing to like Hieratic Seal, Bounce Back, or normal summon, and stuff like that. Anyways, in conclusion, Fire King's still the best deck, and Anti-Spell is absolutely everywhere. Again, in the grind game, Anti-Spell is much better. Anti-Spell is no longer becoming as good as it was before, because in the grind game, cards like Solemn Strike can be a little better. Stopping your opponent's top deck every single turn, and you can also stop Hand Shops with Solemn Strike. And I do know that because I was main decking Solemn Strike in my Cyber Dragon deck at YCS Niagara 2019, and I was negating billions of Hand Shops with it. Good old days. Anyways, that's all I had for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.